Gure Namah, Shikar Gure Namah, Sat Gure Namah, Sri Gurudeve Namah, Aad Gure Namah, Shikar Gure Namah, Sat Gure Namah, Sri Gurudeve Namah, Aad Gure Namah, Shikar Gure Namah, Sat Gure Namah, Sri Gurudeve Namah. So we greet each other Satnam. We say Satnam a lot. We chant Satnam. Mantra originates with Guru Nanak. On Friday, as I told you, it's a very rich subject. On Friday, we'll talk more about Guru Nanak's connection with it, the Sikh tradition. Today, we're going to go pretty much humanology. We're not going to really do religion so much. Okay? And it works. It's such a rich subject. You don't have to mention Guru Nanak. You don't. It's nice to give credit where credit's due, but it's not a theological subject or anything like that. Satnam. I'll tell you a little bit of my story. This is not about me, but maybe it'll give you some insight where I'm coming from, and maybe it'll affect your perspective. Maybe. I'm just being very frank. It was 1970, and there was a lot going on. Some of you may have heard of the shootings at the Kent State University. There was a song all summer long from Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, 4 Dead in Ohio, and basically it's a call to arms for young people everywhere, because we were being shot, and we were being shot for standing for peace. And I was 16, and in my province of Ontario, that was the legal age for leaving home. So actually I got a choice: cut your hair or leave home. So I got home, and it was a good thing. My parents, it's not all of my parents, they did their very best, but they came from a very difficult culture. They came from Nazi Germany, and they were passing on some of their core values, and I wanted out, and I got out. And before that, I did a lot of reading, serious reading, because I wanted to understand the world. And particularly, I wanted to understand adults and how they can be so stupid to do all the wars and concentration camps and atomic bombs that they do. So, am I speaking too fast or too loud or too soft? We're doing some translation, right? We are doing some yeah, I'm okay. Okay, no problem. A little slow, okay. Good. English is my second language, so I'm with you. All right. So I was very blessed. Within 2 years, I had moved into Guru Ram Das ashram, and I moved in because I had become vegetarian when I was still living at home. I wanted to keep my hair long because I realized that culture makes people kind of crazy. I mean, my parents were great role models about what culture can do to people. You know, those terrible Jews, you know, all that nonsense. And I got discipline. I understood discipline. So when I came to Kundalini Yoga, and I saw that they were vegetarian and they were keeping their hair, living naturally, and they were having a discipline, I said, this is my tribe, you know. And so, I didn't understand everything, but there were enough things I could check and say, yeah, you know, the rest I can figure out later. And Satnam was one of those things. Because they said Satnam means true name. Didn't really do much for me, or God's name is true. What does that mean? So, and nobody could really tell me. And you know, we had a very senior teacher come visit us in Toronto once. He came from Washington, D.C. People said, this guy is going to take over from Yogi Bhajan when Yogi Bhajan passes. And so I asked, you know, why don't we have the name of love instead of the name of truth? What's so great about truth? And you know what? The guy didn't know either. And the truth is, he didn't last very, you know, there's a lot of people come and go in 3/8. So this big authority, you know, he was gone in a few years anyway. So I was left with the question to figure out myself. And it was just an unresolved thing. Love the sadhana, love the solstice, love my turban, my bana, love the Gurbani, love Yogi Bhajan's lectures, love the Sangat, the community, love everything. But Satnam, what? I still didn't get exactly what that's about. And but I don't give up. You know, I'm a very stubborn person when I have a question. Especially if there's something so wholesome. I mean, this lifestyle is so wholesome. There's so much goodness in this. I said, sometimes there's got to be something to it. You know, it just can't be this dumb thing. So I just kept with it, and. You know, Yogi Bhajan would sometimes, he would say a lot of, I mean, he tried really, really hard to get through to us, to touch our hearts and to help us to understand what he was seeing, what he was experiencing. And sometimes he said, you know, be the you in you. Or he would say, God and me and God are one. Or I am the light of God. He would say different things, and it would, you know, they would make kind of sense. But I was still looking for something simpler, something just easy peasy. And at the next class we're going to do on Friday, I'm going to talk about translating Guru Nanak for children, because I was in a children's Sikh yoga camp for a while, and that was my job, translating. You know the hukum? Y'all know hukum? Put up here. You know. So you know we have that hukum. We have it in English and Spanish and the original. But in adult English, in adult Spanish. So I had to translate. So what I ended up finally figuring out is how to say Satnam in children's Spanish, which is really, we'll do that on Friday. Like I said, there's a lot of material. One thing I'll just share with you that ties in a way. Yogi Bhajan used to visit us in Toronto. And so it was wonderful. It's just so great to be his host, you know, clean your house like crazy, you know, and always he'd find the spot. You know, there was something you overlooked that he would point it out, just to make you humble. But one day I had a learning experience. It was a morning, and he said, "How are you?" You know what? He just like acted like I never said it, and so that's a learning experience. Like, why did that happen? And I came to realize that he's in such a zone, you know, in a very consistent zone. That doesn't really make sense, you know. Oh, I'm having a bad day, or you know. And I discourage you from asking me that question as well, because my whole focus in life is to be, we call it charity kala, in high spirits and consistently. And in the same way, a child, like 2-year-old, you know, you don't ask, "How are you today?" They don't know what you're talking about. They're pretty much in a zone, unconditional, just this amazing zone. They haven't experienced trauma, you know? They're hopefully at 2 years old, you know, and they're just playing around, as long as their diaper's clean and they're being fed, they're just having fun, right? And you certainly never tell the child, be yourself. Can you imagine? Again, they're not going to know what you're talking about. You're so stupid. But that's something, you know, there's something in there. And so I explore that more. What I eventually came up with is, so Yogi Bhajan taught us a lot. He passed 2004. Science, there are some things that are just, you know, IT and this and that, hasn't really affected our, not necessarily in a positive way, our perspective of ourselves and our life. But there are a couple of guys from the University of Rochester who did a lot of work on what's called extrinsic motivation. And they're big in the corporate world, because corporations like for their employees to feel that that the employees are serving themselves when they're actually serving the corporation. You know, they want people to identify with the corporation and feel, you know, expand their sense of self, to feel really good about working for the company. And so When you're getting carrots and sticks, promotions and demotions, all that sort of thing, that is called extrinsic. Can you all say extrinsic? Extrinsic. It's a fancy way of saying external. You know, it's outside, right? And so that's a field, and if you want to look at the academic literature, there's quite a few papers, extrinsic motivation. And if you have a big corporation, you want to hire these guys, Ryan and Daisy from University of Rochester, you know, aim big bucks, and they'll be happy to come to your corporation and do their thing. However, in their work, they also, if you read carefully, they mention that's not the only kind of motivation. There is another motivation. It's called intrinsic motivation. You all say intrinsic? Intrinsic is inside of you. It's not a carrot, it's not a stick. It's what the 2-year-old basically runs on, you know? Johnny, don't do this, but Johnny wants to do this, so Johnny does it anyway, you know? I mean, there's an element we need to train children so they don't run in the street. But most of their motivation, they're not thinking what other people will think of what they're doing. They are doing it because they feel in their heart they want to sing, they want to play in the mud, whatever they want to do. That's intrinsic motivation. Now, the fun part is that a yogi or an artist is also very intrinsically motivated. You know, I mean, some artists are in it for the money. Okay, let's admit it. But some really visionary folk, all their motivation comes from inside, and I'm calling that now. So we have motivations, right? Extrinsic and intrinsic, right? Then I am theorizing, I'm saying that the state of being of that person who predominantly, how are we doing? Okay. Who predominantly, their motivation is from outside, their state of being, I'm calling it extrinsic being. Now you won't have read that anywhere because I'm making it up as I go along. This is something I think needs to be mainstream thinking, but we are creating it here and now. And it's evolving a little bit day by day. And I get feedback and sometimes that helps. Okay? So you're part of it too. Okay? But the person whose motivation is primarily inside, I label that intrinsic being. Intrinsic. That ties in with Sadhana this way. Again, Sadhana. Nam we know. Nam in a lot of languages there are noms and names and namens. Right? Makes sense? What is it in Spanish again? Name? Nombre? There we go. So, I mean, it comes from Sanskrit, it comes way back. So, name we can get. Name is a person, place, or thing. It's a noun, right? Sat. That's where we're stuck, right? The real name, the true name, God's name is true. So, I listened to Sanskrit one day. And in Sanskrit, sat is a verb. Sat means is. Is. And so you put it together. Either something is or it isn't, right? So Sat Nam, it's an identity. It's basically it's you, let's say, or somebody who is very deeply identifying with what they are, and not with what they are not, and not with what they want, but with what they are. So what does that look like? We made a list. And actually, some good people in Argentina, they added a couple of things to the list. So these are the qualities of intrinsic being. These are the qualities of a yogi, the kind of yogi that you don't ask, how are you? Well, just irrelevant. And the kind of qualities you will find in the children here, not only at Ramdas Puri, but in Bogota, in Beijing, in Moscow, in Washington, anywhere you go. The children, unless they're deeply traumatized, which happens, sadly. Anyway, qualities. Non-judgmental. You can write it down if you want, but we're getting it. It's videotape now, right? All right, it's on tape. Non-judgmental. Sometimes we call it innocent. Fearless. Right? A young child is fearless. They don't know fear. Playful, of course. Guru Nanak is japchi. Kele sadal. It means the whole world is a play. From a certain lens, it's very playful. Energetic. Do we have any mothers in this group here? Put up your hand, please, if you're a mother. Yeah? You know the idea that you're running after your child? And I hear so many mothers say, where do they get all that energy, right? Well, and so the weird thing is every mother used to be a 2-year-old, and they had all the energy too. And then your mother was asking, where do they get all the energy? Right? It's a fascinating, magical place. Joyful. Basically joyful. Self-confident. Not lacking in self-confidence, by any means. Readily forgiving. Readily forgiving. They don't carry grudges, in other words. Very in the moment. Very in the moment. Kind. These are qualities of a saint, but they're also qualities of a basic 2-year-old, I think. Authentic. They're authentic. They're not faking stuff unless they're playing a game. They're authentic. Helpful. Shameless is a big one. You don't want walking around naked. But frankly, a yogi is shameless too. Sometimes they'll do stuff which is outrageous because they need to do that because the culture needs to be outraged. Because basically the culture to begin with is outrageous. You need to try and show a mirror. You can do that in different ways without getting put in jail. But sometimes they'll crucify you too. So it can, whatever. Imaginative, of course. Empathetic and curious. And if you can think of one that I didn't mention, please let me know after class. Okay. Do you get the zone that I'm talking about? That place? Yeah. And we were all there. Not 100 years ago, maybe, 18 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago. That was your zone. And one of the great things about it is, we have a number of what we call them existential crises, big crises, environmental crisis, nuclear crisis, AI crisis. One of the wonderful, wonderful things about intrinsic being, and bear with me because we are pioneering, we are forging ahead, creating new frontiers, and sometimes we have to create new language for that. And there's no concept of intrinsic being until we came up with it. But there's another one. If you are in that zone of intrinsic being is very life-enhancing. A child is so full of life, or for that matter, a mother is, until maybe, she is, the stresses of life. We don't have a great support system for mothers in this country, generally. Would you agree with that? Yeah. You don't have a lot of aunties and uncles, up and down the street. You can't, let your children just run around because somebody's going to kidnap them. It can be kind of a scary place here. So it can be difficult to be a mother, right? And so yes, a mother can get stressed out. So her very luscious, beautiful, life-affirming energy, she can get a little hairy with that, and it's not her fault. But the word I coined is biogenetic. Bio means life, and geneic, as in Genesis, means creating or enhancing life. That's not an adjective I would use for our culture, but I would use it for an individual cases, like a child, like a young child. They're just so full of life, they're so vibrant, and pregnant ladies, when they're in a good environment, they glow too, don't we say? That's very biogenic. Yogi would say, you could tell if a lady is pregnant because there's not one order, there's two. And you can see that. There's a lot of life, a whole lot of life going on there. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing if you like life. Maybe we have to ask that these days. Do you like life? You really? Or do you prefer video games or whatever, yeah. So that's where we begin. So intrinsic being. So intrinsic being is, among other things, is biogenetic. It's basically supportive of vitality in an organism. Could be your organism, but in any organism or in a community. Biogenetic means supportive of life in a community or a culture. A culture can be very biogenic. You know? You can have maybe an organic farm someplace where they're just doing things just very correctly, ecologically correct, and they have a good mindset, and they have a wonderful community consciousness. So you can say that's a very biogenic society, culture. Or you can have others. We don't, as you can see, there's a lot of places we could go, and we're not going to take a whole bunch of detours. We're going to more or less stay on the main highway. But if you want to take notes or revisit the video, there's a lot of food for thought here. There really, really is. Sometimes I would ask, just for fun in my yoga classes, I would ask, are there any shallow people in this class? And I would ask just for fun. But this subject is so, so deep. You can take it at any level you want, but you can also go extremely deep on it. Yeah. Basically, every unhappiness and every addiction and every misfortune comes when we are not being true to ourselves, or when one is not being true to oneself. I'm going to take a little bit of a walk into psychiatry now. Lacking the powerful tools to help people establish a firm identity and a lasting connection with their own authenticity, modern psychiatry has instead invested or focused on the persona. The persona, if you don't know, it's a Greek word that means mask. The persona is your mask. It's the thing you bring when you leave, when you go out the door and you function with people. You put on a show, right? That's not you. It focuses instead on the persona, the personality, and its intrigues, and focuses on behaviors. You have criminal behaviors, you have neurotic behaviors, you have psychotic behaviors, psychosocial, antisocial. But you won't come to a psychiatrist. I don't know of any psychiatrist who's going to give you a methodology to be you, to be deeply and profoundly authentic. I don't think that's there yet. Yet's a magic word. Yet. And we can change stuff. I know we can change stuff because I'm very confident that I've seen over like 50 years where there were no vegetarian restaurants in a lot of major cities. You say you're vegetarian, they say what? In Canada, we did a human rights case and we got Sikhs the right to serve in the armed forces, which is still have, with their turbans. Even our Minister of Defense had a turban. So we've changed the world and we continue to change the world. We are very, with the grace of the universe, we can do a lot. Does that scare you? Yeah. So there's an interesting study. There's a fellow, there's so many notes. I didn't get his first name, but if you Google Gaudi, G-O-W-D-Y, ants, termites, there's a scholar, I think he's in West Virginia, who wrote a wonderful book about the culture of ants and termites. And basically what he's saying is that in a culture of people who don't have a center, who are not intrinsically engaged, it's a lot like an ant culture. Ants cultures and termites, they have a very, very sophisticated culture. And they get stuff done. They get a lot of stuff done and they sacrifice for the whole, But nobody's done the psychiatry of an ant yet. Nobody's been able to really go into their heads. But as far as he's been able to figure out, there's just not a lot of initiative, there's not a lot of individuality there. Maybe none. It's a very different mindset. And that's kind of the corporate mentality that extrinsic motivation cultivates, Forget about you. Think about the corporation. Yeah. Some of you may work for corporations, some of you may have worked for corporations. And they will, they do they want to tell you that really they're concerned about your well-being. But ultimately it's the bottom line, isn't it? Yeah. There's a book, isn't it, called The Corporation? And there's a movie about the corp. It came out of Vancouver. And basically the guy psychoanalyzed like how corporations function. And basically he came to the conclusion that if a person psychotic, antisocial. There's all the extractive, pull stuff out, create value, but pulling out of people, pulling out of environments, take, and then the shareholders get something. Yeah? You may not agree. I'm not a communist, but I'm just saying I think our culture has lost maybe a bit of a human touch. If you're in doubt, ask an indigenous person what they think of the human touch here in North America. So intrinsic being is, how about this? It's body affirmative. I mean, a 2-year-old's not ashamed of their body. Neither is a yogi, right? It's body affirmative, it's self-affirmative, it's life affirmative. It embraces differences. Versus, it's not bullying. I mean, after time, children learn how to do bullying. It's not shaming. And it's not a toxic culture. Intrinsic being isn't toxic at all. It's just so life-enhancing. It's music. It's beauty. It's I was just reading. There's a beautiful piece. I don't want to go too far into Sikh Dharma again, but there's just a beautiful poetry of Guru Nanak, Guru Nanak is Guru Gobind Singh in the Dasam Granth, and he's just a beautiful image. There's a little story about there's a war and Krishna's doing the war, and then afterwards, just by memory, they just make a beautiful picture of just a little picture, a little vignette of peace. People are of the children. People are singing songs, and the children are dancing, and people are clapping, and people are making clothes, and people are laughing, and it's just, it's such a picture of a nice place to be, a place where you'd like to live, where children are happy and singing, and there's music, and people are not stressed about their next paycheck, or about the next war, or about getting the latest technological thing. Oh yeah. And so we're all looking around. We're all adults, right? There's a funny word. It's adulteration. You know that word, adulteration? Put up your hand if you don't know the word adulteration. It's something to be ashamed of. Okay. So I'm a bit of a linguist too. Plus, I'm studying this subject like for 50 years, so I know some stuff. It's not that you're not smart. So adult, a child, right? Adult. Adulteration, however, for some reason, it's very interesting. Adulteration means something that's not pure anymore. There's been, it's a classic example. I don't know if they do it very much in Punjab anymore, but there's a long tradition that farmers sometimes, to make more money, they'll put water in their milk and they'll sell it watered down milk, right? So they make more money. But that's adulterated, right? Or you can take anything, oil, you have beautiful olive oil and you put some other cheaper oil in it, that's adulterated. You can adulterate stuff. So I think the root is adultery, right? Adultery, you take away from the purity of a relationship, But it's fascinating. I mean, to me, it's fascinating to look at the 2-year-old and then look at the scheming adult that some 2-year-olds become. And there's no study. Nobody has ever, to my knowledge, in detail, studied how that process happens. There is something beautiful. We have 2 people from Quebec here. Yeah. I mean, Quebec, there's a lot of things with Quebec, good, bad, and different. Right? But one thing I know that I really admire, they have a law. You cannot advertise to children. I don't know of any other place that has it. Typically what we do is children become confused and insecure. We figure out how to market to them. How do we capitalize on that weakness, right? How do we get their parents' money and take the money for ourselves? But we don't look at it as a problematic situation and study it so we can fix it. Or we can support people as they grow up, because we're all going to grow up. We're all going to become adults unless we have an accident. But is it inevitable that we become confused and insecure and have all those awful qualities of being insecure and body, shamed about all that stuff? Probably, I don't think it is. If you want, we can, on Friday, we'll talk a bit about some of the role models, because one of the difficulties in this culture is we don't have inspiring stories about little wonderful people who go through their childhood in a positive way and become amazing adults. We have the Jesus story. He's beautiful, he's away in a manger, la la la. And then he's teaching in the temple, he's 20 years old. Like, what happened? Alright? So, call me biased, but I know in India we have stories of Krishna, we have Dhruv, Prahlad, Guru Nanak, Gobind Rai, and we have historical accounts of Guru Hakrishna, the 8th Guru, who, the historian said, he got up early in the morning, did his personal sadhana, and then he came together with the Sangha around sunset, and they did kirtan. So we don't have a rich literature of children growing up to be amazing people. We don't have a rich literature, but there's some. And maybe we need to create that. Maybe with your family, maybe with your children, you're going to be able to do that. We need a lot of role models. We don't have them. There's something fun. So somebody did do a little bit of research. It's just a little bit of research that's been done. So children love to do what they love to do. They love to play in the mud puddles or whatever it is they like to do. Somebody did in 1973, they did a study just to see what would happen. That's a lot of science, right? To see what would happen. So they had some children, I think they were making drawings. And the adult came and said, I will pay you to make drawings. I will give you a reward for doing drawings. Does anybody want to guess what happened? What? Anybody? They lost interest in doing drawings. Because they said, the adult wants me to do it? That's no fun. I want to do what I want to do. You understand? So that's an interesting thing. The intrinsic being is very powerful, and if you as an adult want to twist that person, put them under your control, you can't actually control intrinsic being. Somebody wants to do it. You can't control somebody's conscience. There's a creative spark which is unique in every person, and you can't really control it. So that was fun. So there's just a little teeny bit of research on growing up and intrinsic and extrinsic being, but very, very, very little. I'll share something with you that Yogi taught. I mean, I won't mention names, but there's a Swami that used to say, there's many paths and one goal. Have you heard that before? Yeah. But Yogi, being straight-talking teacher that he is, he said, not true. There's only one path. That's the path of truth. And I think what he's saying, of course we're using the vocabulary of intrinsic being, I think what he's saying is you've got to be true to yourself. You can be a Buddhist and be true to yourself. You can be an atheist, but you've got to be yourself, first and foremost. You've got to be in sync with yourself. You've got to be alive and feeling good to be alive. Otherwise, it's just a show, and it's that path is not going to take you anywhere. Maybe it's a spiritual, you know the term, spiritual bypass? There's lots of stuff you can do and still look really great. But you're not going to be happy. And ideally, what you can do is you get into a state of being, which is contagious, Your sense of humor, your laugh, your sense of outrageousness, your fearlessness. People pick it up. But if you don't have it, if you're just talking about it, people don't pick up much. That makes sense? The state of being that we're after. A while ago, quite a few years ago, I realized that I can do sadhana and I can do yoga and I've written books, but the most valuable thing I bring to the world, and the same applies, think it over, it might be true for you as well. most valuable thing I can bring to the world is my state of being. If I can bring a really outrageous, fun, and courageous state of being to the world, that's worth a lot more than a really smart rap, you know? A talk, yak, 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 clever, 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 smart, 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 intrinsic being, blah, 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 you know? Be amazing, you know? And that's a practice. That takes work. You know, that's what we do sadhana for. Guru Nanak is amazing. And you know, again, I don't want to go too far into Guru Nanak today. We're doing human knowledge. We're doing like kind of a secular thing today. Yeah, and from that, you all know Gestalt. You heard of Gestalt therapy? Gestalt. Yeah. About the same time as you know, that yoga arrived. There's a therapy called Gestalt, and there's a saying: "I'm okay, you're okay." Yeah, it kind of works. You know, if you're having fights with each other, I'm right and you're wrong, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of a way of making peace, but it's not deep. It's not profound. Ideally, why don't we both do our sadhana? I mean, we're a very privileged group. You go out there in Albuquerque, most people are not going to know what I'm talking about, sadhana, or forget about intrinsic being. But if we can embrace a very life-enhancing discipline, I'm not saying shave your hair and go to a monastery. That's a whole other story. But if you want to embrace a very life-enhancing discipline and focus on being the most amazing you can be, that can be contagious. You know? Not that you can write a wonderful book about it. You know? Just show up. Let people pick up your vibe. There's a guy I met, he's doing good work in Colombia, and he's doing quite holistic work, which is rather unusual. He's a psychiatrist, and most psychiatrists are more like drug-oriented. He's doing good work. But there's something I noticed which was interesting. He talked about like spirituality as being a realm of life. And from my new perspective here, as a yogi, as a satnamer, I've come to see, and think about this, see if it makes sense for you. The spirituality is not a realm of life. Or we could say, if you want, I'm happy correlating biogeneity, you know, with spirituality. I would say spirituality is the degree to which you can integrate your values and your courage and your fun and your soul and your mind, the degree to which you can just be yourself. That's the degree that you're spiritual. It's not a separate realm. It's a measurement. How spiritual is how integrated you are, how whole you are, or how, you know, beside yourself. You know, interesting. I was beside myself yesterday. Right? The spirituality is, I mean, spirit means breath, right? Does it make sense? Am I making sense? Yogi-ji, we will teach Yogi-ji. Yogi-ji made a nice poem, and typically poems, to really get into your head, they need to be put to music. So I'm not going to read a long poem, because I might lose you after a couple of verses. But I'm going to pick out 2 little verses, and just to touch you with these. It's an unpublished poem too. Yogi was so creative. So here's the little unpublished poem. The 2 verses here go. As a child, you have an innocence which brings you love and food. It brings you a lot of opportunities, and nobody can be rude. But when you grow older, you become big and bolder. You lose this beautiful shield, and you'll look like a banana, very peeled. Okay. If you want, you can catch me after class. We can read the rest. But now something else I found really mind-boggling, because it ties in so well. There's a woman. Okay. There was a woman in Australia. And she was just very nice lady. But she didn't have any particular skill set, and she needed to make a living and didn't pay rent. and she could play guitar, but not that great. So she got work as a taking care of people who are very sick, terminally ill, and they need somebody to help them with their baths and taking care of it. There's a word for that. What do you call it? Personal care assistant? Something like that. So you get the picture what the job is? So she spends time, like long, maybe half day with these people and helps them to eat and get bathed, help them so they can live, even though they're maybe a little handicapped and they're going down, maybe they have multiple sclerosis or cancer or something. Is that clear? Yeah. That's your job. Okay, so she gets to know people, but they don't last very long. So she's with somebody for a year, with somebody for 3 years, and she gets to know them. She befriends them. And she noticed something. Like all these people basically, on an unconscious level, they are killing themselves. There's some deep underlying issues there that are eating them up. And now she's not a psychotherapist, she just sees it and she just makes note, and then she ended up writing a book. The 5 biggest regrets of the dying. If you Google it, it comes up really quick. And I'll just give it to you real quick, and I'll start with number 5. Okay? So think, I've given this in many, many yoga classes. If you're teaching a yoga which you feel is life enhancing and you want people to come out alive, you definitely don't want them to be dying with regrets, right? So put that out there right away. And I teach children as well. I say, adults sometimes, you're not that smart, and you're going to be an adult one day. Be smart, all right? So number 5, I wish I'd let myself be happier. That's the regret people take to their grave. I wish I'd let myself be happier. This is in Australia, so it may be particular to Australia, where people travel from great distances to go there to make money, probably. And it's, I wish I stayed in touch with my friends. That's number 4. Number 3 is I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. That can kill you, Maybe there's some just really toxic stuff going on, and you just don't want to make waves. You want everybody to like you, and so you just shut up. Maybe, maybe let's just say there's somebody who's really a sociopath in your circle, and you just don't want to say too much. And supposing that person ends up doing something really horrible, and you could have stopped that, but you didn't want to make waves. Can you see how that can kill you? Take away your good night's sleep? You understand what I'm saying? So that's a regret. You don't want to have that regret. You want to, rather, have the courage to express your feelings tactfully, effectively, strategically. Make sense? You don't just be blurting stuff all over the place, but there are ways to communicate. Right? So that's also what I call, that's Sadhana. Sadhana. Sometimes we would, I think there may be a handful of people who were on silence fast here, but many, many years ago, we were all on silence fast, and all you could say was Sadhana. You could make notes, but, or Waheguru. It was very cool. So nobody told any lies. All he could say was Satnam and Waheguru. It was all very straightforward. And then there's no regrets. I said Satnam to somebody. If they took it the wrong way. All right, so number 2, drum roll. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. Whoa. Yeah. Go to Denmark sometime for a change. Actually in Denmark, people they're not afraid of losing their job because they're not going to lose their house after losing 2 paychecks. People working at McDonald's, they can actually, live a reasonable life. It's a very amazing, I would call it a biogenetic culture. They don't have nukes. They don't have, there's a lot of things they don't have that you wouldn't want to have. There's a lot of things they don't have that you don't want, that we've got. And number 1, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself. Does that ring a bell? Does that sound kind of intrinsic? Yeah, that's Sadhana. I wish I'd been my Sadhana all along, rather than pleasing other people. People take up careers to make their parents happy, right? Or they move someplace to make their partner, or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of things you can do. There's a lot of things you can do. just to try and make peace. But it can kill you. You can become a banker, but really you're an artist inside. Your heart won't tolerate that for very long. You understand? You get a heart attack at 41. Made a lot of money, but yeah. So there's that. I wish I'd been happier. Oh yeah, this is fun. How many of you speak a language other than English in this group? Yeah? Oh, bravo. Good. I did. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, is this just me, or is there some cross-cultural resonance to this? Does this actually work in French? And just for the sake of quickness, I'll go through some of what I found. And if you have a language other than one I touch, then perhaps you can help me out. Because what I was looking for is, can you say be yourself? You know, in English we say be yourself. And it can mean, you know, somebody comes to visit and you say, oh, come on, have a beer, put your feet up, relax, be yourself, right? It's sort of like a surface level, be yourself. Of course, as yogis, be yourself, it means like, it's a very deep thing. Say, you know, God and you and God. You're going to be, the fulfillment of your life is resonating in that deep level where you do feel the presence of God. Ang Sam Wahiguru in your every cell. It's deep. But still, you know, in cultures, even cultures that are shaming cultures, where they say, you know, the predominant religion says, we're all born in sin. Nobody's any good. You know, even in those cultures, people say, be yourself, which makes no logical sense whatsoever, what they say. So, in French, I'm told that être soi, rien de plus. Or no, actually, that's, so rather we could say, suis, sois, toi-même, tout simplement. Pronunciation? Okay. So basically, you're saying be yourself, just simple, don't do anything more than that. Or in German, sei du selbst. Sei du selbst, right? It's in Hebrew, but I can't pronounce it. I've got Hebrew alphabet here, I can't pronounce it. I got it in Igbo as well. Jide onwe gi aka. Basically, it means be yourself. Italian, si te stressa. That's feminine. Anyway, Mandarin, Norwegian, ver dig selv. Punjabi, it's apne ap vich raho. Apne ap vich raho. Live within yourself. Be yourself. And so on. In Spanish, I was in South America. So, ser uno mismo. Ser uno mismo. Be yourself. Swahili, it's there. It's in Yiddish. Yeah, is there another language you want to try? Yeah?
Say in Russian.
You want to know how it's said in Russian? Yeah, I got it in the Cyrillic alphabet, so sorry. But it's there. I mean, I checked, it's there. It is there. I just can't say it today. What I did find interesting, because, what?
She can say in Russian.
Oh, you can say it. Well, say it, please.
Будь yourself. Будь собой. Будь собой.
Beautiful. Yeah. And it means just that, doesn't it? Yeah, be authentic, right? Oh, bravo. Yeah, it's in Arabic too. I mean, Arabic's a little, you know, they don't like the God and me stuff. That can get you killed. They don't like to say that in Islam. But they say, you know, be authentic. Be authentic. They can say that. And it's interesting, I went to a First Nations person, a tribe up north, an indigenous tribe, and I found it fascinating that the concept of integrity is definitely there, authenticity. But the way they say it is be in harmony with the four elements. Right? It's a different way, same concept, it's a different way of approaching it. Yeah? So, yeah, I mean, I feel very gratified. It tells me I'm open to being told that I'm wrong, and proven that I'm wrong, but I take courage from finding that in different cultures they still say that all around the world. Yeah. Now, I think this is a very powerful message. It can be a very healing message in a very troubled time. So if, say we, not just me, but if we want to share that and help for people to catch it, you know, like a sense of humor, or, you know, very, very nice case of flu, you know. It's helpful to know cultural references. And so I looked around, and of course I've been doing this for years. But the stuff even you're going to think of and you're going to recognize, I think, cultural references. For example, there are in Storyland, you know the story The Little Prince? You heard of it? It's a French story, right? So he's just very intrinsic, he's very himself, right? And there's an adult world out there which is kind of weird, right? Alice in Wonderland has some of the same theme, right? Peter Pan has some of the same. And Peter Pan's a little weird in places, but still, I think, I didn't read all the books, but I think Harry Potter has some of that. Is it true? I'm not an expert in Harry Potter. The Emperor's New Clothes definitely does. You know that story, The Emperor's New Clothes? You know that story? Shall I tell it? How many of you don't know the story of The Emperor's New Clothes? Okay, I'll tell it quickly. Somebody has a watch. What time is it? What else? We have another round. Yeah, okay. So Emperor's New Clothes. So there's an emperor, he's very vain. He's very vain, and all he thinks about is dressing up. Yeah? And a couple of tailors, they come, and they're a couple of shysters come, a couple of crooks come to town, and they know his weak point, and they know he's got a lot of money, you know. So they come, and they say, we can, all right, maybe I'll tell the original Indian version, because it changed. There's a guy, Hans Christian Andersen, he made a children's version of it. I'll tell you the original version from India, which is just fine. They say that we're going to make amazing clothes. It's very expensive. It's amazing clothes, and there's one thing that's also besides being very, very beautiful clothes, the people who look at you, those people whose who are illegitimately born, they won't see your clothes. But everybody who's, mom and dad are mom and dad, and there's no external sperm that arrived into your family, they will see you. They'll see the beautiful clothes. So you'll know if somebody is a bastard, as we say, if they can't see the clothes. The children's version is a little different. But anyway, so they come and they ask for a lot of money and really expensive cloth and gold, and they're pretending to make clothes. They're pretending. And the emperor comes to see how it's going, and they pretend to put the clothes on him, and he knows what this is. So he doesn't want to show that he doesn't see the clothes, because that's going to mean that he's a bastard, right? And everybody's afraid of being shown up to be a bastard. And so everybody goes along with the game, and they're making so much money, yeah? And so finally somebody suggests, well, Emperor, you've got these beautiful clothes, we're having a parade, why don't you wear the clothes in the parade? Okay. And so he goes in the parade. Meanwhile, the two crooks, they get all their money and their silk and their gold, and they head out of town, So the parade is happening, and the emperor is there. He's got no clothes on whatsoever, but nobody's going to say anything because they know. But a child, this, Mommy, look, the emperor's got no clothes on. And finally, people look at it and they say, it's true. Anyway, so it's an intrinsic story, right? Yeah. Hans Christian Andersen is a little different. But, yeah. And so there's all that. And in film, I think E.T., it just broke so many records because it resonated with people, such a heart center. I mean, E.T. is a very biogenetic figure, right? He's from a faraway place, but he brings plants back to life. You remember that part? Yeah. And he and the boy really resonate because the boy, he's a boy. He's not adulterated. And there's other words. There's the movie Yellow Submarine. I think that's a long time ago. The Wizard of Oz, The Life of Pi. In an ugly way, the Hunger Games are kind of and young people. It's such a sick adult-oriented culture. You all know the Hunger Games? Yeah. And of course, for music, there's Another Brick in the Wall. That's a Biogen. You know that song? Pink Floyd? Leave those kids alone. Yeah, or they did another song called Money. Well, there's a bunch of songs. If you go back to Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Wooden Ships, it's like that. It's like the young people were saying, this adult crazy culture doesn't need us. Let's get on some ships and get out of here. Yeah, I think that's that's that. Anybody want to add something? Something I didn't think of? Some story or some fable or some movie or some book that's very, very life enhancing and very about, intrinsic being, maybe a child. Yeah, Winnie the Pooh
has so many great stories.
Yeah. I remember reading that. I'm just not that familiar with it. Cool. Thank you. I can add that to my list.
Yeah.
Thank you. Winnie. Just going. Okay. Now we can say, okay, this guy is a Kundalini yogi, and he's going to push Kundalini yoga on everybody, and everything is Kundalini yoga, and if it's not Kundalini yoga, he doesn't care. It's not true. I'm very lucky. I have a student. She's a Ismaili she's not really practicing Ismaili, but they came from another place. They're kind of Muslim, and she's my smartest student, and she did her PhD on Kundalini yoga for people with post-traumatic stress. And she was gracious enough, she allowed me to co-write a couple of her papers, even though I just have a PA. But, so what I'm getting at is, I recognize, I know the scientific literature out there, I know there's other stuff that can treat, for example, trauma. Kundalini yoga, Hatha yoga can do it, And similarly, basically I think we can conjecture, we can guess that growing up is kind of traumatic. All the shaming that goes, and school, God bless, if school isn't traumatic, you have like 30 people in 30 children in school, and maybe 3 of them are going to get A's, yeah? And everybody else, the system is going to tell them either you're mediocre or you're below average. You got a C, right? And you have to bring that home to your parents. It's an ugly, ugly system. I don't have a proposal for a wonderful system yet, but I'm just saying, there's something wrong. And so I'm suggesting that growing up, with this kind of the school system as we have it, never mind the bullying that happens in the hallways, but it is kind of traumatic. And so I'm just guessing that some of the treatments we use for people with post-traumatic stress can be generally applied because who doesn't have it? And that does, it does make you beside yourself. When you're in trauma, we say, because I've given courses for people with trauma, you're really, your call it your third eye, or call it your prefrontal cortex, is shut down, and your amygdala, your emotional center, you're just not in the present moment anymore. Your past is taken over, and your emotions are taken over, and you have no capacity to be in the present, to be empathetic, to make plans, to follow through on plans. And so what can help? Kundalini, alright, so at the top of the list, Kundalini yoga really, really works well because there's so many different parts to it, and it's intense. But look at this, martial arts can help you to get into your body and to get into your present moment and to be yourself when you're typically beside yourself. Dance, you do that. There's something called forest bathing, which basically means nature immersion. Go for a walk in the forest. Doesn't that bring you back to yourself? Yeah, everybody knows that. And nobody makes any money off of you, right? I've got to go to the gym, or I've got to go to yoga class. No, I'm just going to go for a walk in the forest. Yeah, and there are certain kinds of play. We know that there's a big business on, it's a lot of sports we've inherited from the Romans, from their Colosseums, their blood sports, and this team's gonna kill that team, and this team's gonna slaughter that team. And even in some games, you don't have ties anymore. Somebody's gotta beat up somebody. You can't have an honorable tie, But there are some games that are cooperative games. You may have heard of them. There are actually some computer games now. They're called ludic, which means just fun. Nobody wins. You just have fun. Just play like a 2-year-old. 2-year-old doesn't play to win. 2-year-old plays to play. So there's that. That is very good. Of course, meditation. It doesn't have to be Kundalini meditation. Integrated body work. All kinds of yoga. Qigong can help. And I'm reluctant to say it, but research is showing that under certain circumstances, psilocybin can help people to be themselves again. If they're having depression, if they're having addiction issues, there are studies now that show that I can help you be less beside yourself. Is it okay? Yeah. Psilocybin? Have you heard of magic mushrooms? That's psilocybin. Yeah. And I think the key thing is there under certain circumstances, ideally you have a guide who can walk you through it, and don't be doing them like candy. Take it and consider it a sacrament. Yeah? Consider it an exercise. Can anybody think of any other evidence-based methodology? No? Okay, do you know what? Are we going to do any yoga? Yeah, what?
Making music.
Yeah, music, yeah. Art, any art, really. We've been sitting a long time. How about we just take a little, do a little something fun? Is it okay if we do some fun? Yeah. Okay, so we're going to do some celestial communication. And maybe some people dozed off. Maybe they just need the rest, but they might come back and join us. So, I'll tell you something. Toronto is a very multicultural place. And I like to bring people into my class. If they're like there's only one Serb in the class, or the only person from Mongolia. I ask them their language, and then we do the meditation in their language. You can do this meditation in any language, and it's still fun. At any age. We're going to do it tomorrow, I think, in the children's group. So, can you put your hands here? Are we all good? If you know somebody beside you who doesn't understand English, please help them out. So hands here, and we go I. And so it means it's my birthright to be happy. It's an affirmation, right? Okay. I am good. That means you're good by your birthright. You don't need to shame yourself, right? You're born good. God doesn't make junk. Okay, can we do it again? See, the deal is, those are great concepts, but we're so programmed to think otherwise that we have to do japa, which means keep doing it over and over again until it sinks in. So it files somewhere in with the Hertz commercial and the pizza commercial that you go on automatic, it comes out automatically, right? Because they do japa out there, right? Into your brain. So you do your own japa, and hopefully you can override some of that nonsense. Okay. I am happy. I am good. I am happy. I am good. Satyanam, 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 Ji. Vaheguru, 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 Ji. Satyanam, 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 Ji. Vaheguru, 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 Ji. I am happy. I am good. I am happy. I am good. Satyanam, 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 Ji. Vaheguru, 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 Ji. Satyanam, 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 Ji. Vaheguru, 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 Ji. Now, there's still a lot of stuff to cover, so I'm going to ask you to quickly organize yourself into circles of, say, 4 or 5 people. Can you do that? Real quick. Okay? Look around, and if somebody's got no buddy, be their buddy. Make a circle, sit in a circle. Actually, 2 people can do it too, but 4 for fun, 4 or 5 for fun. Just don't leave anybody all sitting by themselves. Okay, in about 30 seconds we start. Ten seconds. Okay, ready? Hands together. Here we go. Hands to the heart center. I am happy. And you join your hands with the people around you. You're clapping with the person to your left and right. Got it? I am good. I am happy. I am good. Satyanam, Satyanam, Satyanam Ji. Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru Ji. Satyanam, Satyanam, Satyanam Ji. Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru Ji. I am happy. Hands together, clap your hands together. I am good. I am happy. I am good. Satyanam, Satyanam, Satyanam Ji. Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru Ji. Satyanam, Satyanam, Satyanam Ji. Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru Ji. I am happy. I am good. I am happy. I am good. Satyanam, Satyanam, Satyanam Ji. Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru Ji. Satyanam, Satyanam, Satyanam Ji. Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru Ji. I am happy. I am good. I am happy. I am good. Satyanam, Satyanam, Satyanam Ji. Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru Ji. Satyanam, Satyanam, Satyanam Ji. Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru Ji. I am happy. I am good. I am happy. I am good. Satyanam, Satyanam, Are we all happy? All right, bravo. Okay, come back to your place. Thank you very much. Thank you, partner. Merci.
Thanks.
Gracias.
That was nice.
All right. So I think there's hope. I mean, I've done that. It's such a fun meditation. I've done it with people of all different ages and different cultures, and it brings everybody back to their house, you know, and everybody's having fun. It's really great. Oh yeah. So again, if you want to communicate this to people, regular folks, it's helpful to have, Winnie the Pooh to refer as a reference point. It's also helpful to have Jesus. Even though we have no Jesus childhood stories, look at this. What profits a man if he gains the world and loses his soul? Right? All that extrinsic stuff, all that treasure, all those rewards, you know. But if you lose your sense of self, right? Your inherent, your intrinsic motivation, it means, you know, your connection with God, where God is guiding you, where your soul is guiding you every day and putting you on a beautiful path. If you were in the Gurdwara today, Liftar had a beautiful, beautiful song, but my world is beautiful. I don't know. Were some of you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's basically about, you know, being on that path, guided by your soul. Or how about, unless you humble yourself and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. That's been translated different ways. You're looking at me. In Argentina, we did in the Spanish, but there's a part in the Bible, and you can talk to me afterwards. But where people were keeping Jesus, the story is people were keeping children away from Jesus and saying, "No, you're just kids," you know. And but he said, "No, these children, they get it, you know. And unless you be like them, you're not going where you want to go. You're going to be stuck." Okay, that's a Jesus story. And then there's the lilies of the field. I remember, you know, I was always kind of like at school. They would tell the story, you know, the story of the ant and the grasshopper, or the squirrel, and there's different birds, different animals. Some are very hard workers. Some just play all the time. And so the moral of the story is work hard and save money, right? And then I go to Sunday school. I went every second Sunday. Anyway, I would go to Sunday school, and they would say, Jesus said this, consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. Neither they toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which today is alive and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? That's Jesus. I think they call this a Christian culture, right? So see what you can do with that. See what you can do with that. Yeah. Okay. So I take this this is my life. I take it very seriously. I take you. I take your children, your grandchildren. I take everything very seriously. I'm not a joker. And so I eat, breathe, sleep. Love to all, peace to all, life to all. I do. And so the question comes: how do we be better communicators? And how do we put this into the water supply? Yeah. And so one day a poem came to me, and it's a. We die every night in a way, right? And then we resurrect in the morning. And it's a very personal resurrection. And so this poem is a resurrection poem. I actually shared it with some priests, and I got different reactions. One priest really didn't like it. He didn't like that I'm not a Catholic and I'm giving him a Jesus poem. He didn't like that at all. Found that very offensive. But some others, they did kind of like it. It comes from a very deep place. I've gotten poems before that have come to me, in Old English, like biblical kind of English, And so this is one of those, and we'll have it on the video. And if you'd like, approach me afterwards. I can give you the Spanish translation. You can do that. There's a word there that most people don't know, even if they speak English. It's tarry. Tarry means waste time. Okay, so if I say don't tarry, it means don't waste time. Okay, so I have a student in Ireland, and she put this in the studio and did a pretty good job of it. So I'll just tell you the first verse, and then you can listen to the rest of it. And if you want, you can sing along. It starts off, "Oh dead God." I mean, to me, anybody who's sleeping is kind of a dead God. We're all gods. Right? But when we're deep sleep, we're a dead God, right? We got crucified. "O dead God, now come arise. Open wide thine sleeping eyes. Tarry, neither hesitate. All the world doth thee await." Okay, let's see how the sound goes. We might have to. Is Tony here? Tony's gone. Okay, well, let's hope for the best.
It takes a second, but it'll play.
Okay. ask, what's wrong with extrinsic motivation? It's always been with us. People pay money for this. People threaten to fire you or kick you out, whatever, if you don't do what they say. That's been with us from time immemorial, right? So what's wrong with it? Okay, so, and I'll agree, it's always been with us, it's kind of worked. But I'm going to give you an argument for why it's not going to work so well anymore. Like we've come to an inflection point in our history as a humanity. And we're so privileged in North America. We have so much agency. You know, we can travel, we can do stuff that, say, people in Niger. You know Niger? Heard of Niger? Malawi? There are people in countries we don't even know the name of that are poor. They don't have internet. You know, I think 70% of Africa still doesn't have internet. Can you imagine that? Yeah. So, I mean, we have a lot, by agency, I mean, we can do stuff. We can really change. I mean, if you don't have, you're living in a grass hut and you don't have electricity. Did I say 70% don't have internet or 70% don't have electricity? They don't have electricity. Electricity, you know. So, I mean, what can you do? But we have all that stuff, you know, and we have the power to do a lot. So here's my argument why extrinsic motivation is just, it's passé. We cannot continue to go that way. And one is that there are, I mean, if you look around, there's a lot of, I mean, I'm a bit of like a computer. I just soak up a lot of information to try and come up with answers that are intelligent, that are workable, that are realistic. And I think if you do a little of that work, you'll find that there's a global tendency towards coming to the cities. People are coming from the country to the city. People are leaving farms and moving to cities. Have you heard about that? So now, what does that mean? So it means that you live in a culture, in a community mostly of strangers. You don't know the people. Back on the farm, you knew everybody, right? And in the city, you're all strangers, right? And so what you have in the city that you don't have so much in the country is you have, for motivation, people are not saying, well, Uncle so-and-so needs help, I'm going to go and help him. Because you don't know who the uncle is on the next street. The currency there is money, basically. Money. And media and different stuff like that. So people are more extrinsically motivated in the cities. They're motivated more by corporate culture and laws and rules and stuff, and less by their heart. Does that make sense? So and more people are getting urbanized. Well, more and more people are becoming extrinsically, that's going to be their prime source of motivation, right? So in a closely knit community, whether a town or a village or a tribe, people don't do outrageous stuff because they know that the karma feedback is very quick. You know, you do something outrageous. I mean, plus you need each other in a tribe to survive you in a survival culture. So, all right. So in a world beset, in a world characterized by dangerous extremes, that extrinsic motivation can be really dangerous to us. So these extrinsic motivations can have an amplifying influence on the destructive impact. They can amplify it, and then make these the dangers we're facing even more dangerous. So, what are the dangerous things we have? One is extreme wealth and wealth differentials. There's a guy, Piketty is his name, in France. He's an expert on studying the difference between, what the gap is between rich and poor at different times in different cultures. And he's like, right now, we have perhaps the biggest gap between the very, very rich, the 0.001%, never about it, ever. And it's not healthy. I mean, for one thing, the people also at the top, let's say in an African country where they have no electricity, the carbon footprint, the carbon emissions contributing to the global warming crisis, their contribution is about 1/10,000th let's say Jeff Bezos, one of these multi-billionaires. Can you imagine, like you have 10,000 people and their carbon emissions equal one person. And those carbon emissions are killing not only us, probably just making us sick actually, but they're going to make your children die and your children's children die, because everybody knows, Pentagon knows very well, that we're looking at climate-induced warfare if this continues as it's going. So the difference, we cannot tolerate people creating that, having that wealth differential. It's very American, it's very Saudi, it's very South African, but I like the Danish model. They also, frankly, have more trust in Denmark. When you have less wealth differential, people, in Denmark, maybe you haven't heard, but people go into a cafe and mothers leave their strollers outside with the children inside because they're not worried. We have a very worried culture. And in Denmark, they're not worried because they trust each other. There's nobody screwing everybody. You don't have somebody who's making 10,000 times as much money as you are, or making obscene amounts of carbon emissions, which are killing everybody. And they say, well, you know what? If things go bad, we'll just get in the spaceship and go to Mars, and leave everybody else behind, because we have the money, we can do that. All right, so this is one little crisis. Extreme degradation of micro and macro ecologies. I mean, it's more and more extrinsic stuff, and where you're not motivated from your heart, it's just going to make it worse. Oh, I got a good job. A good job. I'm making a lot of money just destroying forests. Who cares, right? I've got a good job. I bought my wife a nice mink coat. Life is good. My wife loves me. Everything is great. Number 3, extreme potential of death and devastation through nuclear and other modern weapon systems. There's a huge class of scientists who are engaged in weapons research. Huge, it's hundreds and hundreds of thousands. And they're continuing to do what they're doing, making the robots, making the nukes, making all kinds of ways to kill you. And more civilians, are getting killed by the wars, and less regular folks. And the wars are displacing people too. And we get so upset that people are coming up against the wall, the Mexico wall. Well, why are they doing that? Because partly the climate crisis, partly the drug crisis, because we love our drugs so much. And in Europe, they love their drugs so much, it's just warping the culture in a lot of other places and creating narco warfare. So what we're saying is war. It's a huge, huge industry, very profitable for some people, but very fatal for more and more for women and children and very vulnerable people, and not good for the ecology. You keep blowing stuff up, that puts a lot of heat into the atmosphere. Whether it's in Gaza or in Ukraine or South Sudan, anywhere. Another extreme accumulation of political power through control of media and surveillance. You've heard about surveillance, the surveillance state. Some places they do more surveillance, some places they do less. Some places it's more, in your face, some places it's less. But every place has it. And then there's the manipulation of media, and it's getting more now with AI. It's amazing. They're having fake political ads. Joe Biden says so and so, and it actually is not Joe Biden. It's somebody else put the ad up. And he's saying something outrageous, of course, because they want it to look outrageous, right? And it's getting harder and harder to tell the fakes from the real. And so what I'm saying is, anybody with a good heart, who means well, who loves democracy, they're not going to do that. But if you give somebody a lot of money, and they're financially insecure, or just don't have a heart center, they've kind of lost that aspect of their life, they're going to do it, and they're going to do more and more of it. Right? As they say, it's a good job. It's killing the planet, but with a lot of money. I've got 2 more. Extreme capacity for falsification. So this ties in falsification in the media and aggregation of political power. If you can be, say, Putin, if you can be Xi, his name is Xi in Beijing, and you have like a big corporate apparatus. You can control the media, so, you can filter out news that's not favorable to you. You can go for a long, long time until people get really annoyed with you, or until heaven help, some crazy yogis in New Mexico start a kind of a grassroots revolution of intrinsic being. That would be very bad for business. I'm just thinking. All right, and maybe the last thing. Yeah, the extreme stress. We talk about globalization, and it's been romanticized to a degree, but we all know that a lot of factories in the industrial belt where people had good paying jobs in America, those jobs got shipped out to China, to Vietnam, to Mexico, and some jobs from Mexico got shipped out to some other cheaper places, just so that the very rich who own the factories can make a living, and they couldn't care less about the communities that grew up around those factories or the people that they really, really couldn't care, because they're just robots, There's a beautiful poem. Some of you know T.S. Eliot. You heard of him? He's a poet. Yeah, he had a poem called "The Wasteland," and I didn't bring it with me, but basically he talks about hollow people with straw in them. They have no heart. They're like the straw man in Wizard of Oz. These business people. They're not real. But they have such an impact on everybody else's life. They create this death culture. So we have the globalization, and also there's a lot of stress that goes with globalization. If you're competing, if you have a product, and you're competing with everybody on the whole planet, and you've either got to cut corners, or ship the work out so somebody else can do it, or bribe somebody, or I don't have an answer for this, but it used to be that every town, every village had a musician. Somebody could play some instrument, and everybody loved them, and at night they would go and they would sing, and they would enjoy, and maybe they would dance. But now, the way the music industry is, we have like superstars, right? And if you can play like an instrument as good as the village musician like 100 years ago, you're nobody. Because people are listening to the superstars. They don't care about the local talent. And that's very tough. I don't have an answer for it. I'm just saying there's a problem, and maybe somebody smarter than me can figure out what the answer for it. But, we have a culture where we need more heart. And money is the extrinsic aspect of it is feeding the climate crisis, it's feeding the arms crisis, it's feeding the crisis of alienation. It's not biogeneity, it's not life enhancing, and we can do so much better. As Kundalini Yogis, we're very, very blessed. We have a very life enhancing methodology and even a culture. I would argue we have a family, and we're so blessed. And the question is, what are we going to do with it? I'm old, I'm 70 years old. A lot of this is in your hands. What are you going to do with it for the next 7 years? The next, I'm going to check out on the planet the way we're going. Even if we put the brakes on the carbon emissions, it's going to take about 50 years minimum to turn around the thing that's going. I'll be gone. But if you have children, they're going to be living through this hell. In Bangladesh, the only thing that the military there thinks about is climate warfare, because they know they're so low down that eventually, it's going to come to fighting, just to have some space for their people to live. They're going to have to fight somebody. And the Pentagon knows this very well too. They're not as obsessed about it, but yeah. What time do we have now? 5:25. 5:45. Oh, that means time to finish.
25.
5:25. 5:20. Okay, so we can do this. All right. So I've gone on for a bit. I've got a Kriya we can share. That's for trauma. Does anybody want to share anything? Anything you want to say? Any feedback? Any argument?
I'd like to say, maybe I totally agree with you in the biggest sense, but I also really see how this group now, for example, there are always in every system or the society so many alternatives, or
so many?
big kind of bad thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know, this just makes me think about that, and that makes me really hopeful that every animal shitty system also brings up all these mind things in a different way, or something else.
Yeah, you're saying there are different people coming up with, saying a better world is possible and different ways of realizing that through living organically on a farm, or give me some examples of some different people who have different models they are putting together to create alternatives. If not to actually fight this model, at least to create an alternative.
And for example, let me think about how it's called. Kurdistan?
Kurdistan?
Yeah, like there are, for example, women use rules for men to learn how to reconnect to their peace or to peaceful communication.
Right.
Like,
I've read about that, yeah. Yeah, they're very empowering of their women, apparently. They don't have their own country, right? Yeah, they're scattered here and there. But that doesn't stop them from organizing. And, yeah, having a very vibrant culture, that's true. Anybody else? Any comment, any input, any insight? Yeah?
Yeah, well, in the Yogi philosophy, you talk about Maya, which is like a great illusion that we live in right now. So, isn't the duality and the separation and all the things that's happening on Earth part of this illusion? And if we get like angry or sad about it, we just participate and we don't like touch our Sadhana, our real identity.
Yeah, that's a big one. You don't want to be become part of the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's I'll give you a very quick yoga lesson. This is theory yoga, but typically people don't teach it. Yogaji taught it without giving it as a theory. Yoga has three pillars. One pillar, the first pillar is called tapasya. Tapasya means hardship. I'm going to go a little quick. Are we okay? Because we're running out. Can we go overtime? 5 minutes? Yeah. Okay. So I won't go quite so quick. So the first pillar. This is not a lie. This is really deep yoga. The first pillar of yoga is hardship. If you want to grow, you have to challenge yourself. Or if you don't challenge yourself, maybe find a good teacher who's going to challenge you. Yogi was very good for that. Yeah. Sometimes if you don't challenge yourself, you don't have a challenging teacher, life will challenge you. Like cancer will come knock at your door or something. You know, cancer can be a life-changing experience if it doesn't kill you. So the first pillar of yoga is actually hardship, like getting up early in the morning, having a cold shower. You're a new yoga student, right? So do your 5-minute meditation, but build it up. Work towards an hour and a half. Because you're challenging yourself. You're putting pressure. That's how yoga just say, that's how you make the diamonds, pressure, right? That's the first pillar of yoga. But that doesn't make you a yogi. The second pillar of yoga is self-study. Look at yourself. Now, specifically, sometimes we say that when we're under stress, we become beside ourselves. I wasn't myself yesterday. You know that concept? Look at yourself, and look at yourself. This is the number one study in the world. Yourself, for you, right? Look at yourself when you're under stress and when you're not under stress, and see how differently you behave, and how differently you think, and how differently you feel. As a yogi, what we want to do is be able to apply pressure, or to have pressure applied to us, and find the capacity to be consistent, so you don't go beside yourself when you're under stress. You understand that? I mean, if you're starting, your first time you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you're just beside yourself. It's just so weird, you didn't have enough sleep and all that stuff. But if you're a determined yogi, you may, say, okay, well, usually I get up at 8. I'm going to start getting up at 7, and then I'm going to get up at 6. I've got a 6-month plan, or a 6-year plan. I'm going to get up at 6, then at 5. I'm going to master this, so that I feel just fine at 4 in the morning. I'm not beside myself. You understand? And if you can do, that's just one little thing, cold shower at 4 in the morning. But there are kriyas you can do, like these kriyas. Those kriyas with your arms out. Okay for 1 minute, but 11 minutes. But you can build up to that. You can build that resilience, we call it, right? And so the second pillar of yoga, we call it svadhyaya. It means self-study, but particularly it means look at yourself under different situations of pressure and become oblivious, like immune to pressure. So pressure doesn't affect you. As Japji said, this is what Yogaji put on his tombstone. Ketya duk buksad mar ebidatri data. So it means whatever whatever suffering, whatever deprivation, whatever constant abuse, not abuse, but constant abuse comes my way. These two are your blessings, O bountiful one. It's either crazy man's wisdom or it's a very resilient person talking there. And so Guru Nanak's putting that up there for that to be our model, right? And that's not yoga either. You can be just like a marine, very tough, nothing bugs you, but that doesn't make you a yogi. It doesn't make you happy either. The third pillar of yoga, it's called Ishvara Pranadhana, means basically, we have any Mexicans here? Bravo. Bravo. Look, I'm going to joke a little bit, right? We have this crazy idea about the human sacrifice, human sacrifice. But a yogi just really dedicate. Even in our Hukum today in the Gurdwara, we're talking about I make myself a sacrifice. I dedicate myself. Basically, a yogi is a human sacrifice. They dedicate themselves, body, mind, and spirit, to something bigger than themselves. For some people, it may be the ecology. For some people, it may be humanity. Look, mothers make themselves the human sacrifice for their children every day, right? But that's the third pillar of yoga. See yourself in everything, identify with everything. That's called samadhi. Samadhi. But then the working model of samadhi is you get out there and you serve everybody. Especially serve people who nobody else thinks of serving. Or people who are thankless. They're the best ones. or just do it quietly so nobody even knows you're helping. Just do it intrinsic, right? You don't do it for the reward. All right. So that's yes, if you can do that, every NGO, every non-governmental organization, they screen people. Like Médecins Sans Frontières, they don't want cowboys. You know what a cowboy? Somebody who's going to show up and want to be a hero, and while being that, they put other people's lives in danger. They don't want that. They don't want Hollywood stars showing up. They want those yogis who can be intrinsically motivated and to get the job done without wanting credit and without making stupid decisions, and who are just very resilient to stress. And if you're working Médecins Sans Frontières in Sudan or in Syria or someplace, or in Gaza, you're definitely going to be tested, your capacity to deal with pressure. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So as yogis, that's what we do, and we don't get emotionally involved. But we get the job done. We do it personally impersonal. And we network. Another thing, you can't change the world by yourself. And neither 3HO is going to change the world by you. Network with other like-minded people. That's it. And we can start here. If you want to start like a WhatsApp group and follow up, I'm all with you guys. I'm old, I'm not going to be with you very long. I can be your advisor. Does it make sense? Yeah? I've actually got what's wrong with it? You know what I did? Sometimes I do get a little worked up. I'm a poet too, right? Poetry comes, do stuff. And so these kind of rants. How do you say rant in Russian? You know a rant? Somebody is ranting.
Like angry?
Yeah. Kind of angry. Yeah. So I'll admit that I have these rants, even though I'm a yogi. And so I will share these rants with you. Perhaps they'll inspire you. Perhaps you'll just say, this guy's too angry. He can't be a very good yogi. Whatever. I'm just going to share with you. So here's one rant. Children, do not start wars. Adults do. Children are not born liars. Adults teach them to lie. Children are friends with everyone. Adults model social divisions. Children do not willfully use more than their share of the world's resources. Adults do it for them. Somewhere along the way, day by day, month by month, and year by year, innocent children morph into clever, conniving adults. As a culture, we simply do not know any better. While many grow up aspiring toward ethical vocations and avocations, the state of intrinsic being, of playful, fearless, creative engagement remains strangely elusive. Another rant. Are you okay if I give you another rant? The adult realization of intrinsic being correlates with the revolutions of the past hundreds of years. It correlates with the yearning for liberty, fraternity, equality. It is based on the twin premises that no one is born with an automatic right over another and that we are born innocent. Our institutionalized morality is grounded in the story of Adam and Eve and their fall from grace, their expulsion from the Garden of Eden. Our historic assumption of the faulty character of human nature derives from this religious narrative. It is encoded in the jurisprudence of Western society, which is largely shame-based and punitive, focused on isolating rather than reforming those found guilty by the legal system. The social construct of intrinsic being challenges both the existing criminal justice and mental health establishments. The former criminalizes and metes out Old Testament justice to people exhibiting sociopathic behaviors, while the latter stigmatizes and medicates them according to a disease-based model. To what end? What? Just my range. This is still coming together. It's very new. I don't really have a collaborator. Somebody feels motivated. Maybe we can write a paper, especially with some academic credentials. Or we just do a book, or we'll do a video or something, just to get this thing out. But, I have just some ideas that came to me. That part of this is treating your body as a temple, intrinsic being. You have respect for your body. And as a culture, heaven help us, especially if you're a teen girl, right? And you're on Instagram, the stuff, the toxicity. So we treat our body as a temple, and basically we're up against media, movies, TV, fashion modeling, all the industries that make money off of people feeling inadequate in their bodies, plastic surgery. So there's so many ads on the plane, on the magazine coming. Number two, so we treat our body. I mean, everything. A lot of stuff starts in your body. And that's one reason, like as Kundalini yogis or as lovers of Guru Nanak, we let our hair grow, even in places that, as a culture, they say, no, you can't. You have to shave that part of your body. We say, no. My mom said it has to be Mother Nature. Or we can say DNA if you want to be scientific. My DNA says it. Anyway, so number two, I'm the author of my own destiny. I have the capacity to change. I'm not a victim. And because I'm not a victim, I don't need to drown my sorrows or get high to make up for this tragedy in my life. I don't have it. It's funny. The Greeks have tragedies. India has no tragic tradition. There's no artistic, literary tradition of tragedy in India. Everything, if it doesn't work out in this lifetime, it works out next lifetime. And very commonly, if you hit a wall, what the protagonist does, the hero in the story, what they do is they go and they call it tapasya, which means a sadhana, like a really hard sadhana, and then they change the destiny. The world changes around them. They don't blame themselves or jump off a cliff. They do a heavy sadhana, and then everything changes. So don't feel sorry for yourself. Just do more, do a heavier sadhana. Work on yourself. And number 3, that's part of the Ketya Dukbok Sadmar, whatever comes my way, it's all a blessing. Number 3, a good philosophy is that everything that happens is good. Everything. Just figure out how to make it work for you. It's a funny thing. My second language is English. I basically live and breathe in English. But I'll tell you something funny. The word happy and the word happen have the same root. So, get in the groove with whatever is happening and you'll be happy. Whatever it is, And maybe not what you were hoping for, but it came to you, it's yours. And 4, like we did before, I am happy, I'm good. You are good. Don't let people tell you otherwise. You're not junk. Yeah? I've never met an evil baby outside of the Hollywood movies, We're born so beautiful and so adorable. That's what we do, isn't it? With babies, we adore them, right? Oh, come, let us adore. And there's a culture that say, well, there was they call it the one incarnation of God. They call it the one manifestation of God. We're all manifestations of God. Like God had only one kid, right? Only son? Give me a break. Doesn't make sense. Even I challenge some of the priests, they say, and there's a prayer that says, Our Father, right? Our Father. That means we're all the children, right? So how can there be only one child? Makes no sense. Yeah, no sense. No sense. Yeah. And number 5, I'm just saying that a part of, I think, being empowered and being yourself and being effective is engage your chakras, engage your navel. The navel is so huge. You've got to do your navel work. Otherwise, you're just in your head. Or you're being a fantasist and a romanticist. You've got to go into your gut. And you've got to work from your gut. This is gut level work. Serious work. All right? Makes sense? Yeah, elementary, just a little break. So I've got a Kriya, takes about 11 minutes. Can we do that? It's called elementary adjustment in the brain. It's the central core of trauma yoga. And as I said, I think, growing up is kind of traumatic. So it's not hard, but you have to pay the attention. Take your hands, make them like this. The thumb is inside. So I joke, I remind myself, I say, the thumb is hiding, it's shy. And put the arms out like this. Yeah. And you're going to breathe, make your lips round, and you breathe in as you bend the elbows and bring the fingers in like this. So I'll do that again. So you open your mouth, you make your lips round, and you bring the fingers in. Good. And then you exhale through the nose, and the fingers go out, and you do a little sharp. And then again. Eyes at the tip of the nose, where you go. Try to look at the tip of your nose. In through the mouth, out through the nose. Sharp on the exhale. Do great. Another 30 seconds. Inhale deeply, make your muscles tight, press your molars, your back teeth together, hold the breath, make your body like steel. And when I say we're going to exhale through the mouth like a cannon, I don't say yet. 1, 2, 3, exhale. Inhale again through the nose, hold, make your body like steel, press your back teeth, your molars together, hold the breath. Exhale. One more time. Inhale. Squeeze. Exhale. Now bring your hands like this, and the thumb comes out. The thumb isn't shy anymore. And we're going to vibrate the navel with the foo sound. Can you make foo and make your belly button move? Foo. Okay, we're going to do it like this. See my hands? See how they're going? There's a circle this way, there's a circle this way. We're going to do it this way. Yeah? Good? You got the direction?
Clockwise or counterclockwise?
I'm sorry? Yeah, you got it. That's it. You got it. Everybody, let me see how you're doing. Yeah, everybody got the right direction. Good. I think we've all got it. No, the other way. This way. Yeah. Now we've got it. Okay? And again, you look at the tip of the nose, and we're going to sound like a bunch of baboons. Very happy baboons, okay? Okay? Exhale. Inhale again. Muscles tight, press the lips. Exhale. One more. Inhale. Exhale. Now, bring the arms from here. See this? And turn. Yep. Look at the tip of your nose. Just stay there. find some musical accompaniment. It's not going to be on the sound system, but maybe you can take some inspiration. You're doing great. Give me 1 second. Alright, inhale deeply. Press all your muscles. Press your molars again. Can exhale. Your arms up. And inhale. Hold, squeeze your molars. Exhale. One more. Inhale. Hold, squeeze. Exhale. Okay, relax your hands in your lap. Just sit for a few moments. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Just sit and feel accomplished. Watch the flow of your breath. You did well. You're not a junk. You are very special. And you have power to manifest change in your life, in the lives of others, and in the environment. By the grace of God, the grace of the universe. Grace ever intrinsically. That's who you are. Take these hands to the heart center. May the long time sunshine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way on. May the long time sunshine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way on. Guide your way on. Guide your way on. Dear universe, we thank you for this experience today. We thank you for learning, for opening our eyes, opening our minds, opening our hearts, for thinking of the future, taking nothing for granted. for recognizing our own power, engaging that power today. Let us continue to engage that power, create ripples of engagement, ripples of hope, ripples of life and love, of cooperation and collaboration, of revolution in a very positive way. May there be peace on this earth, may there be life on this earth for many more hundreds of years. May that be our life's work. May we be successful. May we overcome all obstacles. May we smile in the face of adversity. May we shine. May we be everything we were born to be. By your grace. Sadhana. Thank you, warriors, saints, elegant human beings. Thank you. The elementary adjustment of the brain. If you want to network with me, or perhaps I can help you to create your own network, I can give you my card and you can get in touch. How's that?
I have a website. I don't. You know, Yogi would say, there's a saying that
You can put a lot of books on the back of a donkey and it still makes it a donkey. But I do sell books, I do write books, so it's up to you. Sure, thank you. You enjoy? Great, thank you.